we spend $880 billion a year on our military. We were supposed to get a peace dividend. After the Soviet Union collapsed, we were supposed to go from $6 billion to $2 billion. That was a peace dividend. Then we were going to spend the rest, bring it home, and build schools and infrastructure. Instead, we've made up a bunch of foreign enemies and different enemies and things that we got to do to spend more money. The military-industrial complex and the intelligence agencies are telling us we got. Instead of dropping it to 2, we raised it to 8.8. So that's where we are. This is what's happening. You know, if you go back to the beginning of our history, our founders made so many clear warnings against Americans getting involved in foreign wars because they said trying to be an imperium abroad is going to destroy democracy at home. It is going to turn us into a garrison state, a national security state, and a surveillance state. They said the two are inconsistent. You cannot be an imperial nation abroad and a democracy at home. And and John Quincy Adams really spoke for all of the framers when he said, America goes not abroad in search of monsters to destroy. It's something we cannot afford to do in our country. My grandfather, Joseph Kennedy, said, well, we need to build Fortress America. We need to arm ourselves to the teeth at home and make ourselves too expensive to conquer, and then build our economy, because the economy is the source of strength, not bullets and weapons. It's having a strong economy, a strong middle class. Dwight Eisenhower warned against the military-industrial complex and that it would destroy democracy. My father died in his campaign against the Vietnam War. Martin Luther King broke with the civil rights movement on Vietnam, and he said, this has got to be our priority, because you're not seeing that there is a direct link between poverty at home and war, poverty and violence, and oppression at home and war abroad. You cannot separate them. As long as we're making war, as long as our major exports are weapons in war, we will never have a middle class in this country. And my uncle, President Kennedy, told his best friend, Ben Bradley, he said, Bradley asked him, what do you want on your gravestone? What's your epithet? And he said he kept the peace. That's what he wanted. He said the principal job of every president of the United States was to keep our country out of war. And he succeeded in doing it. And he succeeded in doing that. And instead, he started investing in the Kennedy Milk Program and Alliance for Progress, the USAID, to build middle classes in countries so that they could enjoy democracy. He started the Peace Corps because he said he wanted foreigners to know Americans not by military uniforms, but by people who came in their communities to help him. And it's very, very difficult to fairly judge who the best presidents in our history were. Historians take polls of each other, take polls of the public to try to figure out who's the best. But there is one objective metric, and that is, at least for foreign policy, which president has the most statues to him abroad, the most universities named after him, the most hospitals named after him, the most roads and boulevards and avenue, and nobody comes close to John F. Kennedy. Oh, and that is if people love our country, that's good for our economy and it's good for our security. And that's what we had with my uncle. We had a president who made us love. My uncle used to say that he used to love the fact that there were Africans who were naming their children Washington and Jefferson and Lincoln, but they weren't naming them Marx and Lenin. He used to say that. I think probably the proudest thing, if he could know of all the memorials to him, the one he'd be proudest of is the tens of thousands of African children. I've met many of them in my lifetime, and Latin American children and Asian and Mideastern children who are named Kennedy. And I'm going to tell you this. President Bush, my uncle came into office 2 months later. He was fighting his intelligence apparatus and his military because they wanted to invade. They wanted to do the Bay of Pigs. He was totally against it, and he let them roll over him. And in the middle of the Bay of Pigs, he realized they were lying to him, and he realized the function of the intelligence agencies had become to provide the military-industrial complex with a constant pipeline of war. And he came out during the middle of the night during the Bay of Pigs catastrophe, and he said, I want to take the CIA. Alan Dulles had lied to him, Charles Cabell, Richard Bissell, Louis Lemitzer, Curtis LeMay had all lied to him through their teeth. And he said, I want to take the CIA and shatter it into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds. And